Hola! So the thing we did for our portrayal of disability was Grey's Anatomy. It was the episode 921 or 912, one of the two. So this is our group, and we're going to talk about it.
So this show is basically about doctors, and it's a dramatic show, so they kind of go through their lives, and there are a lot of examples of disability on the show. For example, one doctor named Bailey has obsessive compulsive disorder after she almost killed somebody because of like a fault in her gloves, and so the show showed how she dealt with that. And another doctor, Owen Hunt, has post-traumatic stress disorder after serving in the military, and both of these are invisible disabilities. But the disability that we're going to talk about that was portrayed in the show was Arizona's leg was amputated after a plane crash, and this was not congenital. So this really shows that disability can happen at any time.
So the episode is season 9, episode 12. And coming into the episode, it was Arizona Robbins depicting that she was experiencing the phenomenon of phantom limb pain, which she just continues to struggle with the whole episode. And she just it's very extreme. It's probably an extreme thing to feel, and it's shown in the hospital, work, running, cleaning, taking care of her daughter Sophia, and in the operating room, which is one of the biggest things that happen throughout the episode, is she experiences it in the operating room during a surgery, which she struggles with. And there is 2 videos to show what she experienced throughout the problems.
Let's hide behind the chainsaws.
Smart. If you're in a horror movie, you make poor decisions. That's what you do. If you want to save 15% or more on car insurance, you switch to Geico. It's what you do. Patients who undergo an amputation often feel sensation where the missing limb was, as if it's still there. The syndrome is called phantom limb.
Hey, what do we got? Plane crash, open fracture of the left femur, signs of massive infection.
It's as if the body can't accept that a terrible trauma has occurred. The mind is trying to make the body complete again. Patients who experience phantom limb.
What? What's wrong?
Nothing.
Is it hurting again? No, I'm fine. Go back to sleep.
Report many different sensations. But by far the most common is pain.
So that one literally was one of the best depictions of what goes on throughout her pain throughout this episode.
Sorry, give me a sec. There we go. Little technical difficulties.
And then the second one is where she examines the fact that she says, I feel like I'm going crazy because I keep feeling this pain for a limb that is not connected to my body anymore, that she had amputated because of a plane crash earlier in the season.
Are there pastries and bagels in every one of your lounges?
No. Well, maybe. I don't know. Is that the kind of thing you're going to be looking at?
I will be looking at everything, Doctor.
Dr. Robbins, this is Alana Cahill.
Oh, are you all right?
Mm-hmm. I'm fine. I'm sorry.
Could you just give us a minute?
Of course. see efficiency theory, right? Yeah, so I probably look as crazy as a bag of cats. So it was nice working with you.
It's phantom limb pain. Kylie said it only happens at night.
Until now. I'm going crazy.
You're not. You're not crazy. Phantom limb is a very real thing.
I just left a surgery because there was pain in a part of me that no longer exists. What are you doing?
We're helping you visualize a leg that doesn't hurt. Go now. Just look at that.
Are you kidding me?
We are rerouting your brain, reminding it of what happened. Many treatments for phantom limb. There's heat, there's massage, there's virtual reality therapy. I knew a guy in the army who had to stab his prosthetic with a screwdriver as hard as he could.
Well, that's not crazy.
For him, it was the only thing that worked. Now, is your pain any better?
Yeah, it is. A little.
You see, you just need to figure out what works for you. Callie knows all this. What did she say?
And I have been her patient for so long. And I am just starting to feel like a wife again. And she needs me to. I cannot have this. I am finally getting my life back together. And I will not be screwed over by something that's not even there.
We're going to work together. We're going to work together, and I'm going to help you, and we're going to figure this out. Okay?
And actually, at the end of this episode, she does end up doing what the soldier that Owen Hunt was talking about did. She ends up stabbing her prosthetic foot with a scalpel because she needs to depict that that foot's not there and that she needs to just impale it, basically.
So, as you can see in those two videos, her friends and family obviously very much care about her and they want to help her in any way that they can. Like in this episode when Owen was showing her how like the mirror could work and giving her other opportunities and ways that she could possibly fix it, and she just had to find out what works for her. And also in that video, she said how she didn't want to burden Callie, which is her wife, with this problem because she's felt that her life was just getting back together. And this non-congenital disability is her new normal. So she wanted and needed help in this situation because her disability, though it's visible, was causing an invisible pain that others couldn't see, and it interfered with her life.
Okay, so in this slide, we're talking about phantom limb and phantom limb pain. So phantom limb syndrome is the feeling of sensations in a limb that has been removed, sometimes as if it were still attached to the body. So the cause of phantom limb is still pretty disputed and pretty new, but what most people are starting to agree with is that phantom limb is caused because the brain continues to get messages from nerves that used to feel for the missing limb, which is why they experience sensations such as burning, pain, cramps. Their brain really is just trying to reroute itself and figure out what to do now that they're missing a limb. But yeah, sometimes it sends pain signals to a part that is not there. So approximately 80 to 100% of individuals with an amputation experience some sort of phantom limb, but only a small percentage actually experiences pain. So phantom limb syndrome is often brief. So when it happens, it kind of happens for a short period of time and then can go away. Some have persistent chronic pain, but it really depends very much on the individual and the person. There is not one set type of phantom limb. And right now, there is no one treatment plan that works best, since this is a very individual thing. Some treatments, like Owen Hunt said, some treatments work better for some people and some for others. So this picture depicts kind of the sensations that people might feel with phantom limb. So again, pain, burning, unnatural position, cramps. So, yep. Okay, and then here we're going to talk about visible and invisible disabilities. So a visible disability is a disability that you can physically see. So visible disabilities include things such as paralysis, amputation, some mental disabilities. But in this episode, Arizona's leg amputation is a visible disability because we can see that she has a leg amputation. And an invisible disability is not always easy to notice, and sometimes they are not apparent or obvious to the naked eye. So things that refer to invisible disabilities are symptoms such as debilitating pain, brain injuries, learning differences, and mental health disorders, as well as hearing and vision impairments. So in this episode, even though Arizona's leg amputation is a visible disability, she also experiences an invisible disability because of the debilitating pain she has been experiencing in her amputated leg. But it is important to note that both types of disabilities are valid and real, even if you cannot always physically see something. All disabilities are real.
I'm going to be talking about the medical model for disability, which is also like present in the episode. So the medical model of disability views disability as a biological impairment which can be fixed. And it kind of sees the person as the problem, not society. And in the diagram that I show right here, an example is like a person can't use stairs. Well, the disabled person is the problem or too problematic for mainstream schools. So people with disabilities are labeled as the issue, not the environmental things going on that may make them struggle. So the solution, so the medical model of disability sees the solution to the problem is absolutely involves professional intervention, and the person with the disability is irrelevant and helpless in that way. So the medical professionals are in the complete control, and the ultimate goal is curing disability, which is very detrimental to disability and disability culture as a whole. So I would like to say that there are some like positive aspects towards the medical model. For example, like people with disabilities can get treatment and stuff like that. Like even in the episode, like Arizona with the help of her coworker, like she was able to like use the mirror or do different things to make her like feel better. But at the same time, just I think the whole like goal of like curing disability is like the big downfall of the medical model. So I think using some aspects of it can be good. And I also just want to open the floor and discuss some of like the medical model that we've seen in the episode.
I feel like the medical model is used a lot throughout Grey's Anatomy because they're all doctors. So like that's their primary thing that they're going to do is they're going to go straight for, we're going to cure this. But even though Owen wasn't representing it, he was representing the fact that he was also representing the social model because he was using the support to support Arizona throughout this disability that she was going through.
Yeah, I thought Owen did a fantastic job of like helping Arizona with her phantom limb. Like, for example, like he was stressing like we're gonna do this together. You can do this. I can do this. And also like someone mentioned before, like at the end of the episode, he supported Arizona with like well, she was doing surgery and then she was having phantom limb pain and she was insistent like, oh, someone stabbed my prosthetic, and he supported that, which supported a person with a disability knowing what to do with their disability opposed to a professional just making all the decisions for them. So I thought that was really a good application of like a good use of the medical model of disability.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I also think the scene between the two of them showed a lot of the benefits of the medical model, because while it can be harmful, it can also be extremely beneficial when someone is experiencing a problem that could be helpful to them if they cured it. He was like, okay, well, we're going to get through this and we're going to figure it out and you're going to be okay. And I think that was a really positive aspect of the medical model in which like she was experiencing pain and he was like, well, let's help you through it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I also think it was pretty positive that he kind of listed a bunch of treatments and like insisted that no one treatment will work for every single person. So you really
and he wasn't forced, and it wasn't forced on her either.
Like you just have to find what works for you, and almost like he made it like clear kind of that there isn't always a cure for this and that you have to kind of deal with it and find your own treatment. And I just think that was like a positive point of the medical model.
Yeah, agreed.
I was gonna touch on that because, like you said, he was saying like all of these different treatments and how something doesn't work for everybody. And I feel like a lot of depiction of the medical model is saying, "Oh, this one treatment is what we're gonna try because this will probably work." You know what I mean? Like I feel like it just is like a very like the same thing that is like applicable to everybody.
Yeah.
All right, so now we're going to discuss the effects of an episode like this on viewers and people with disabilities. I think the first thing to note is that many shows do not include examples of disabilities. So ones that do address certain things, especially how throughout the series of Grey's Anatomy, we see visible and invisible disabilities. It provides representation for viewers, and it can help people be aware and educated on disabilities that they might not have even known existed. It also, like we said earlier, and just to emphasize this, it's the realization that disability can happen to anyone at any time, which is really important in creating a culture that accepts disabilities as part of our diversity. Also, especially in the clips we watched and showed, it could help viewers understand that it's okay to reach out for help. It's okay for people to want to lean on other people when disabilities get hard, because they can get hard based on the societal limitations our current society has. But I also wanted to talk about something that I called the normalization paradox. So an episode that showcases disabilities can help normalize them by including all these different examples. It can help it become a normal thing we talk about in society, but it can also make disabilities seem like they're too different because they become such core aspects of the plot. It's kind of a hyper focus on disabilities, which can like emphasize the stigma that they're too different or too difficult. So that's one of the more negative aspects that can come from a show like this. And also, which we kind of just talked about, there's a lot of harm that could come with the medical model in implying that all disabilities need to be fixed. I think in this episode, they did do a pretty good job of implying that, yeah, we're not going to try and like fix the fact that you lost your leg, or we're not going to try and just change this part of you, but still like help you get through it. But the medical model throughout this show could be negative in that it implies that just because you have a disability, like you don't need to try and fix it. So if anyone else has anything they want to discuss with how it could affect viewers.
I was going to say, I thought the episode fantastically kind of displayed the intersectionality with disability between people with physical disabilities and people with invisible disabilities. Because I think a lot of the time when people have like one or the other, like people might have both. And I thought it kind of like showed like, that dynamic and how like people can struggle with a physical disability, but at the same time, they can also struggle with an invisible disability. So you never know. And also like, yeah, it kind of showed that like disability can happen to anyone at any time.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree. I think that this episode did a really good portrayal of disability, but I've like watched this show all the way through, and I know that after this episode, they never really touch on Arizona's phantom limb ever again. And I feel like that's not just a one and done kind of thing. So I feel like if they had kind of showed her journey and how she still kind of works with that, might have been a little bit better of a representation of people that experience phantom limb pain. But I overall think this episode did a really good job.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah. And I think a lot of shows do that, where they like just talk about it and then they kind of leave it alone. Whereas people with disabilities, that's just like, that's their life.
That's their life, yeah.
Yeah, it's a one episode thing. Yeah.
And like how you mentioned how viewers can learn about different types of disabilities that they haven't like ever heard about before. I definitely say that the first time I watched this episode was the first time I ever learned anything about phantom limb. I had no idea. I didn't know that a person who lost like a limb or a part of their body could like still like experience feeling in that part. I like had no idea.
Yeah, so that's really important in just making people aware of all this different, you know, diverse
really
aspects
of humanity. It's really good advocacy for it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. So overall, this episode did a good job at showcasing different types of disability while we still acknowledge the harms that can come from the specific medical focus. All right, thank you guys for listening to our presentation. We hope you learned something. Maybe you learned about phantom leg. And we hope going from here, you take every piece of media you consume with more of a grain of salt and be aware of how things are being portrayed. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.